Hey, welcome to Formulations. My name is Marisa Bovers, and I'm the Director of Marketing here at ThoughtForm. And I'm joined here today with my colleague, Lindsay Quinter, who is a design strategist. And we are going to talk a little bit today about meetings. So a quick glance at the internet will tell you that meetings may be the most hated thing in any workplace today. People think they are inefficient, they're boring, they're a waste of time. I don't think there's anything worse than having to go to a meeting. Maybe someone not bringing donuts to that meeting, but that's about it. So, Lindsay, we have a lot of meetings here at ThoughtForm, right? We have internal meetings and we have work session meetings. You and I just had one this morning.
Yep.
And we also have things like client reviews and project kickoffs and discovery sessions. So I feel like we spend at least as much time as everyone else. We put in our time on meetings, right?
Yes.
And so I think because of that, we've spent a little bit of time, being the designers that we are, wanting to design those meeting experiences.
Yep.
Yeah. So what do you think, in your opinion, what do you think makes a meeting go super smooth?
Well, the first thing I always ask a client or ask myself is what are the goals of the meeting? Like going into a meeting, you have to have very clear goals of what you're trying to achieve because otherwise you can go in and circle a lot of things and not actually get anything done, which is not a good meeting. Yeah. So, and then the other thing is just having the right people in the room to accomplish those goals. So, you don't want to go into a meeting and have a great meeting and accomplish those goals or think you accomplished those goals and then find out there's somebody who should have been there that wasn't there. Right. Or you had people there that couldn't really contribute towards what you were trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
So those are two big things, but I think what connects them is really having a good plan in place for bringing those people towards those goals. And that might just be a list of topics or questions that need to be answered, or it could be something more like what we do, which is, facilitated exercises and specific ways to go about achieving those goals. I think it's important too to make those goals visual in the room, so that it's very easy to be like, hey, that is not our goal today. These are our goals today. To keep everyone kind of on track and striving towards those goals.
Yeah, that makes sense. So know what you want to accomplish and have the right people there and have a way to keep yourself on track.
Yeah, exactly.
It's basic, but it's hard.
It is hard. And it's setting the right goals is actually hard too, because sometimes you can go into a meeting with way too broad of a goal that you are not going to accomplish within the time that you have.
Right.
Or you can go in with yes, we are going to get these 10 things done in the next 30 minutes. And that's just not going to happen either. So being realistic and setting achievable goals and really kind of have a path towards getting there is good.
Yeah, that makes sense. So at ThoughtForm, we do a lot of project kickoff or discovery sessions. We call them vision catching sessions, 1 or even 2 or 3 day workshops with a client and our team. You mentioned facilitated exercises. And I think that often those meetings are designed to take a client from point A to point B to, as it's implied in the name, to capture a vision, to make decisions, and to kind of create a single opportunity for a client, whether it's launching a product, developing a new brand, working on a strategic plan, whatever it is. So I have observed that often in those sessions, there's a moment where clients have some sort of breakthrough. Maybe they're resistant at first and then they get into it, or maybe there's division and they come together. What do you think, what's the magic that makes that breakthrough happen, or what do you think leads to those breakthroughs?
Yeah, that's a really, really tough thing to pinpoint, I think. But for me, it's usually pretty clear when there's a different energy in the room, I think, first of all. People are just really jiving or working together. But as a facilitator, a lot of times I recognize it when I see really high engagement. So if I'm sort of a couple weeks ago, I was facilitating a workshop and we had all these sort of cards on the wall. And I was standing there, guiding the discussion. And then one of the participants walked up there, started moving things around. And I was like, I'm going to get out of the way because we're about to get to something good. Because if they go up there and they're really engaged with the exercise and they're sort of seeing something then, and especially when everybody's kind of paying attention.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, we'll do small group activities and come back together and cross-present. And that's usually when the breakthroughs happen, because you can see connections across teams or ideas or similarities in what you were talking about or learning in your smaller groups. So that's usually good too. But yeah, it's usually when, somebody runs up to the whiteboard and has to write something down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Or, puts a big red dot on something.
Right.
It's usually pretty clear. There's an energy in the room. And also the other thing I've noticed is people will stand up.
Yeah.
When they get excited, it's like, all right, we're doing something. And it's usually right before the breaks.
So what do you think the biggest mistake, what's keeping teams from getting to that engaged breakthrough moment? What mistakes are people making? Because we attend a lot of meetings that we don't plan.
Yes.
Not that every meeting that we plan is perfect.
And not that we judge.
Right. Yeah. But what do you think, what kind of mistakes do you see people? What advice, if someone was planning a meeting today, if you want to get to breakthrough, make sure you don't?
Yeah. Well, beyond having the right goals and all of that, I would say having one person dominate the conversation or the discussion, usually getting more people involved really helps bring those ideas together. That's the reason you have a meeting, because you want perspective of multiple people. It's not to just share what you think.
Right.
So if one person's dominating the conversation, that's tough. The other thing is having sort of rules or something that can help make sure that everyone stays on track. So we often use this bunny that we use to signal that somebody's, straying away from the goals.
Throw the bunny at someone.
Going down a path that we don't really need to go down right now. Trying to control that and staying focused on the goals is really important. And then I think the biggest thing actually is avoiding assumptions. So when you're in a meeting and people are talking and you kind of just assume that what you heard is what you think you heard.
Right.
So playing back, so saying, okay, here's what I think you said. Is that right?
Yeah.
Are we on the same page? Do we agree? Because you can leave that meeting thinking that, each person thinking that you made decisions that are different from one another. So we often use visual thinking to do that, to write things down on the board and be like, you guys, this is what we agreed to, right?
Right.
And that's a way to have that playback so that you avoid having these assumptions that, different people think you accomplished different things or made different decisions.
Yeah. That's a great point. Mm-hmm. So you alluded to something that's actually part of my next question. So thank you for that segue,
You're welcome.
Which is visual thinking. So we're a design firm. Mm-hmm. We all believe in some level of visual thinking, whether it's whiteboard sketching or just representing words in a tangible, physical way on a card or a Post-it or scrawled across someone's forehead, whatever it needs to be, right? So we are big believers and advocates for visual thinking. Why do you think visual thinking is so good, particularly for meetings?
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons. But one is it cuts out some of the confusion, by having something documented in front of everyone and everyone's looking at the same thing. It allows everyone to make sure they agree and they're interpreting everything the same way.
Literally on the same page.
Yeah, and it also helps helps you explain ideas. So when you write something down or when you draw a picture, you're processing it a second time than you would if you just spoke it out loud. So I think it helps you almost refine what you're about to share with everybody so you can explain it more clearly. I also think it's helpful just as a reference point. Especially in the kinds of meetings we do, we cover a lot of material.
All day.
Yeah. And so as a facilitator, I love it because I can point to something and say, remember, these are the goals. Or we decided over here that this is the most important thing.
My favorite thing is when people point to something that's not there anymore. Remember yesterday, right? And it's like, oh, yeah, right. Putting it into place, now it lives in our minds. Right.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing. It's it helps with recall because you cover so much material. You're sort of creating an artifact during the meeting that documents what everyone discussed or decided. And you can look at it later to refresh your memory. And your brain works that way. You can recall it better if you have written it down.
Right.
So those are just a few of the reasons.
Yeah,
but
I'm a big fan of the visual thinking in the meetings. Yeah, I can't believe how many people have meetings where they just talk, and they didn't write anything down. So Linz, I feel like you are gone every other week facilitating a workshop. I never see you. I was so excited to have you here just so I could chat with you. What's your favorite thing about facilitating meetings?
Oh, man. Wow, that's hard to answer, but I became a designer because I like the combination of analysis and creative thinking, sort of combining those two sides of my brain.
Yeah.
And to me, that's all part of problem solving, which that's how I kind of describe what I do, solve communication problems.
Right.
What's great about facilitating is that I can help other people do that. Like I can guide people through that process and help them solve those problems.
Yeah.
And I think, that's exciting to me to kind of see that happen in front of you and help people get there. Especially when, I've left meetings and people are like, I've never been to a meeting like that before in my life, and that was awesome.
Yeah.
Like that feels really good to me because not only have I helped them do what they've decided to do during that time period, but they are going to carry that forward and just make the way they work with other people better as well, which is pretty awesome.
Evangelizing for good meetings. Absolutely. So I wrote a blog post recently, I'm sure you read it, about kind of the difference between neutral facilitating and engaged guide, right?
Yeah.
Being someone who really knows the content and even has maybe a stake in the decision versus kind of we have this ideal that all meeting facilitators have to be completely neutral and they can't inject their own opinion. So I want to ask you what you thought about it, but which do you prefer? Are you a neutral facilitator or do you like to be an engaged guide?
Yeah, I mean, I do think you can do either, and I think there's sort of different reasons why you would do one or the other, and a lot of it depends on what the nature of what you're trying to do during that meeting is and whether it's good to have one or the other. But I mean, I definitely like being a neutral facilitator for a few reasons. One is really I get to learn as part of that. So like when I go in and, I might not be totally familiar with what it is, the content that we're talking about. And I know enough to be able to kind of structure the conversations and things. But I get to learn through that process, which is kind of fun for me. I mean, I like to learn, so that's good. And then I also like the part of that where I can kind of unstick them a little bit from a standpoint of like, I am not embedded in their organization the way they are or in the content the way they are.
Right.
So just my point of view can help push them in a direction they didn't think about going before.
You don't suffer from the curse of knowledge,
right.
all those assumption burdens.
Exactly.
Yeah. You
can
ask kind of the beginner mindset question.
Yeah, you feel pretty good about that when you sort of help them kind of move in a direction they might not have gone before.
Yeah.
So I think that's exciting to me. So I guess I would say I prefer that. But I do think as an engaged guide, it's pretty awesome when you have more invested in the outcomes of the meeting.
Absolutely.
So it's pretty awesome to kind of see that happen.
Yeah.
And be part of that. I think it's fuzzy to try to figure out, at what point do you talk and at what point do you listen?
Sure.
Kind of how to switch those roles.
Be a mature facilitator.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But it's pretty cool to kind of be part of it, I think, when you have something invested in the outcomes.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. Well, Lindsay, thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to join me here today. And thank you to all of you for tuning in. If you want to learn more about using visual thinking for meetings, you can visit our website, ThoughtForm.com, and you'll see there a white paper about visual thinking for meetings, the blog post I just referenced, some other blog posts about how we do facilitation, how we plan meetings and agendas. And if you like this video, you can tune in again next month when we'll be talking about brand voice. So thank you all again, and we'll see you next month.
Thanks.